My dad, Larry Linton, the only true servant leader willing to stand in the arena and fight for your freedoms.
Larry is a man of God, and he will move heaven and earth to protect the people in district.
Too many elected politicians act like chameleons.
My name is Mike. I'm Larry's neighbor. I bought the house behind him. I trust Larry to give me an honest answer.
And what's important to me is faith, family, and my freedom. And I believe these values are also held by Larry Linton.
More important than ever, I believe, in our lifetime to really stand up and fight for what's right. And Larry's doing that, and I'm in support of it.
We need to replace career politicians in Nashville with leaders willing to stand for what is right, even if it's not popular. People who feel a calling and are not looking to make a profession out of it.
You're not going to find a more honest, straightforward, and passionate individual, I don't believe. Larry is what you see is what you get. He's honest.
Listen, if you are looking for a true conservative who's passionate about the state of Tennessee, the people that live in it, and wanting to make a difference in a meaningful way, Larry's your guy.
Happy Veterans Day from Baker, Montana, ladies and gentlemen. Being a veteran myself, I want to give a shout out to all who have served this country. Those people that wrote a blank check to the country, that swore an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, which means it was up to and including being willing to give their lives in defense of this great nation. My brothers and sisters in arms, thank you for your service. As I have said many times before, if you want to thank a veteran for their service, just be the type of person who believes in our constitutional republic and represents the type of citizen that we were willing to die for, to protect their rights, to protect their privileges for living in what we believe to be the greatest nation on earth. Now, I'll be leaving this location in a couple of hours, embarking on a just over 5-hour drive down to Casper, Wyoming. I arrived in Baker late Thursday evening and spent some time with some crews in this part of the country. There's a training event down in Casper being hosted by the client that I'll be taking part in tomorrow morning. After that, I'll be headed over to Gillette, Wyoming to spend a few days there with the crews that are in the field in that location. So that's it for the work recap. Now, how about that election? Like many of my listeners, I'm rejoicing over the news. Not only the Electoral College victory, but something happened that I did not think would have been possible, given how much cheating I knew there would be in those blue states that have loose ID requirements for voting. But I really did not think the possibility of winning the popular vote was even possible. A lot of the podcasts I watch or listen to were hinting at that possibility ever since the commies inserted the most unpopular vice president in our nation's history at the top of their ticket. But I poo-pooed it as wishful thinking. But lo and behold, it was accomplished. And I believe there are many reasons for it, as I might be able to discuss later today. But what do you all think about the lunatic meltdowns all over social media? I think there is something more behind that than just the ravings of the unhinged left. It's an underlying factor into why some of these people are behaving this way, instead of doing the natural introspection that usually accompanies a defeat, whether on the playing field, the battlefield, or even the electoral map. If I have time, I'll even talk about whatever we need to do to find common ground to quote unquote heal, like so many people are for after the win, and why that is not the way to go if we want to secure liberty. I also may talk about burning some more bridges. Speaking of which, just as I predicted, last week's episode was reported and taken down, at least one of the segments was, taken down on TikTok of all places. Now that I have blocked a couple of the suspected accounts, I don't think that will happen anymore. And again, if we have time, we'll get into discussing Tennessee Governor Bill Lee's second attempt to bribe the citizens of Tennessee with their own tax dollars so they can, quote unquote, purchase freedom from the very same institution the government already controls, education. He and his trans publican allies are using the artful lie to accomplish this, as we may get to later on in the show. Also, if there's time, we'll get to how the Tennessee commie stronghold of Memphis is once again ignoring the state and federal constitutions. In today's closing, I have a bit of a programming note for the show, so stay tuned until the end. More bridges to burn, reconciliation or perseverance, celebration and meltdowns, America first or America last, and the programming note. All that and more on this week's episode of the Liberty, Leadership, and Lies podcast. So let's get on with this week's show and take a stand in the arena together again this week, folks. Welcome to the Liberty, Leadership, and Lies podcast. On this show, we will discuss the assaults on our liberty by the very institution we the people created to secure our liberty. We will also compare and contrast the actions of people in leadership positions to the servant leadership that is needed to protect our God-given, constitutionally protected rights. Additionally, we will break down the many lies that elected and unelected officials in government and media spin every day in order to secure for themselves positions of power and influence that are antithetical to the system of government our founding fathers created and passed down to us. Good morning once again, folks. Before we get started, I titled this week's show Liberty at the Corner for a reason. And that reason is this. With the election of Donald Trump winning the Senate, holding the House, many people are celebrating because they believe our country has turned the corner. We most assuredly have not turned the corner. We have arrived at the corner and we must accelerate through it, or we will lose control as we inevitably do. Remember that going forward. For now, though, I'm going to start this episode off a bit differently. It will demonstrate why former President and now President-elect Trump won such a decisive victory in last week's election. I'm going to show the audience a video that President Trump put out more than a year ago. Now be patient because it is a bit over 3 minutes long. There are a few things we can learn from this video, though. The first, at least for me, is this. Why did I just learn about this video now? It's more than a year old, and I just saw this on another podcaster show. It seems odd that I never caught wind about this, and you know how much I support the man and the cause. Was news about that video suppressed? The second thing we can learn from it is that this video shows the stark difference between the two major political parties in our country. For more than a decade now, the left has been hard at work denigrating our republic and its founding. They love to point out all of our nation's flaws, which would be okay if you pointed out the flaws and contrasted them with everything that is good and pure in our republic. But that never, or extremely rarely, happens in the Communist Party. Here, though, it is a video that demonstrates the patriotism and love for our country that only one of the two major political party candidates possessed. Give it a view, and I'll come back on the other side with some more commentary.
3 years from now, the United States will celebrate the biggest and most important milestone in our country's history. 250 years of American independence. What a great country, and we have to keep it that way. But that's why, as a nation, we should be preparing for a most spectacular birthday party. We want to make it the best of all time. Here is my plan to give America's founding in 1776 the incredible anniversary it truly deserves. On day one, I will convene a White House task force called Salute to America 250. It will be responsible for coordinating with state and local governments to ensure not just one day of celebration, but an entire year of festivities across the nation, starting on Memorial Day 2025 and continuing through July 4th, 2026. Second, I will work with all 50 governors, Republican and Democrat alike, to create the Great American State Fair, a unique one-year exhibition featuring pavilions from all 50 states. It'll be something. The Great American State Fair will showcase the glory of every state in the Union, promote pride in our history, and put forth innovative visions for America's future. My hope is that the amazing people of Iowa will work with my administration to open up the legendary Iowa State Fairgrounds to host the Great American State Fair and welcome millions and millions of visitors from around the world to the heartland of America for this special one-time festival. Together we will build it and they will come. Third, Alongside the Great American State Fair, we will host major sporting contests for high school athletes. These are great athletes, wonderful athletes from fantastic high schools all around the country. These Patriot Games will allow young Americans from every state to show off the best of American skill, sportsmanship, and competitive spirit. Fourth, I will sign an executive order to bring back our National Garden of American Heroes, which we want to build very badly. Commission artists for the first 100 statues to populate this new statuary park honoring the greatest Americans of all time. Fifth, as president, I will invite the leaders and citizens of nations around the world to visit the United States in honor of our 250th anniversary. It's going to be great. America's tourist industry should get ready because we're going to have a lot of people coming. It will be a record year. And finally, and most importantly, I will ask America's great religious communities to pray for our nation and our people as we prepare for this momentous occasion. From the very beginning, America has been a country sustained and strengthened by prayer and by our communities of faith. As we chart a course toward the next 250 years, let us come together and rededicate ourselves as one nation under God. Thank you.
Now, how about that, folks? If you've heard about this proposal before and did not share it, shame on you. If you, like me, had never heard about this, how excited are you for this upcoming celebration? Once I heard about it, I immediately called my wife and said, we have to go to the fairgrounds in Iowa while this is happening. There are a few other things in President Trump's announcement that are key as well. Did you notice how he wants to showcase each state, blue and red, at this fair? That is something else that the commies do not do at all. Remember, they despise flyover country where we cling to our Bibles and our guns. Also, he had mentioned the American Games, where high school athletes all over the country will be competing in physical activities. Couple that with his calls during the campaign to get boys out of girls' sports. This celebration of the nation's 250th birthday will be outstanding, folks. I'm so looking forward to it. This will be patriotism on display like nothing else in my lifetime. And keep in mind, I was alive during the 200th birthday celebration. Again, though, I want to emphasize the point that one candidate for the office of president demonstrates and has demonstrated on a daily basis his love of this country. The other two candidates, yes, too, because it was the same with Sleepy Joe before the commies benched the old senile man. The other two candidates denigrate our nation and more than half of its citizens quite regularly. As the commies move forward and do their election postmortem, that this is something they should consider, but they won't because they are incapable of this. It's not in their nature. Remember the parable of the scorpion and the frog that I discussed a couple of years ago? It is in the commies' nature not to see their loss as their fault. The blame game started in earnest before the voting even concluded on Election Day. Now, while I may enjoy watching them blame Sleepy Joe for his role in their loss, and he did play a role, just not the ones the commies are claiming, the liberty-loving people cannot lose sight of the fact that the commies will not change their nature. We are going to go through some videos in the next segment that shows that these evil people, they won't change. They're incapable of it. The people in these liberal meltdown videos that I will show, they're incapable of that change and are the perfect foot soldiers of the leaders in the communist movement. So when I come back from this upcoming break, in addition to breaking down these meltdown videos, I'm also going to point out a unique correlation between two factions in the communist camp. I want you to watch this video first before we get into the next segment. Then compare it to the clips I will be showing you there. This video was captured at a Trump election watch party and clearly demonstrates the difference between the two camps as well. Give it a view.
I hear the
do conservatives celebrate victory? By praising the one that gives us victory. Please keep that clip in mind and contrast it with everything you see in the next segment. Oh, yeah. And an executive order, corporate owned trans Republican Bill Lee is at it again. I have a special message for the Tennessee listeners as it relates to our not so esteemed governor here. So please stick with me because I will be right back. Yes, folks, we haven't turned the corner. We have to accelerate it because we're at the start of the corner. We cannot lose the ground we have gained, and we cannot forget what got us to this point either. It wasn't just the pushback during the small skirmishes in the culture war. What was the biggest difference during this national election that pushed it over the edge in favor of President Trump? Sure, there are many prominent voices within the conservative movement that assisted in securing the electoral landslide, as well as winning the nationwide popular vote. Voices like Dan Bongino, Charlie Kirk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Matt Walsh, and dozens of others. By the way, though, kudos to Matt Walsh as well as Riley Gaines. For way too many years now, many of the voices in conservatism were too afraid to address the trans ideology that was sweeping this nation. Of course, there was no fear on this program, but I did not and will not have the reach that those two individuals have. In fact, without those two individuals fighting back and exposing that sick, evil, demented, child torturing issue, it was on pace to be socially and politically acceptable. The evil people in control were well on their way to making it a hate crime to question the ideology that promoted chemically and surgically mutilating children. Again, though, these skirmishes were effective at turning the tide against the woke mind virus sweeping the country. And I'll show you what the infected looked like because of Trump's win. They were still not the key factor in this victory. Those voices were guided by something else, our Creator. I've been speaking for a while now about the American church's role in the preservation of our republic, and I sincerely believe that this victory doesn't belong to the conservative movement or the Republican Party. It was a God thing. The conservative voices, primarily by God-fearing citizen activists like those I mentioned earlier, along with pastors across the country, finally taking a stand in the arena. We must give credit where credit is due, because it was evil, pure and simple, that was directing the course of this nation for years now. And that is why I say we must put the pedal to the metal instead of thinking we've turned the corner. We must continue to press on. Why? Well, I'm going to show you a series of videos that are streaming across social media right now that demonstrates what we are up against. This first clip is really demonstrative of what the commies, who are the perfect host for the woke mind virus, what they think about you. Watch this.
Now that we're all saying what we're thinking, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think if you voted for Donald Trump, you're ugly. I think you're all freaking ugly, and I think you're dumb as bricks. And I think you're a bigot in every sense of the word, every use of the word. I also not only won't care when all the bad stuff that's gonna happen happens to you, I actually want it to happen to you.
What do you think? This young lady thinks that secure borders, lower costs of living, and a reduction in crime are all the bad things that will happen to you, since she thinks her reproductive freedom has been stripped from her. Never mind that with the results of this election, nothing has changed with regards to abortion in this country. If you live in a blue state that allows abortion up until the point of delivery, and sometimes even after it, it is still available. Now, how about this clip?
That's not okay. This is not okay. This simply will not do. And this is not okay. And I'm not good with this. This is sick.
This confused young man, at least that's what I think it is, well, he can still have tampons in the boys' bathrooms in states like Minnesota, Tampon Tim's state. Or how about this complete lunatic?
Beta! I'm sorry! No! Why? Why?
Wow. Those of you that are parents out there, I want you to think about the terrible twos. That time in your child's life when they behaved a certain way when they did not get what they wanted. And that's before they learned that instant gratification was not a healthy way of living. Now, before I show you this next clip, I want you to pay attention to the first second of it. The first 1 second. Here it is.
What the hell?
Did you notice how calm he was in setting up the camera shot? All of these videos have a certain theme behind them that ties perfectly well in just what portion of our culture supported Vice President Harris in this election. This next clip is a bit long as I want you to see further into the mindset of those that have been truly infected by the evil woke mind virus. Watch it and pay close attention to her words.
This is all pretty great. Like we're just gonna wake up tomorrow morning and everything's gonna go back to the way it'll be a psych. It'll be like a really bad dream, and none of this will have ever happened, right? Like it'll be like the first time, and then we're all gonna pull through fine in 4 years. Correct? Please, someone tell me. I can tell you one thing right now, marriage is the farthest thing from on the table currently. So they screwed the pooch on that one if they thought that any of this was going to actually help with the whole family and kids department and lowering birth rates, because that, not even. Any semblance of thoughts I had or hope for that is completely going to be a no thanks for me, love. Do you think I would ever even dare bring a child into this country now? It was rough before. Now? No. That's cute. And the men, don't even get me started about dating. To think I was still entertaining a few moderates here and there sometimes. No, honey, no. Not even close. That's never goodbye.
What do you think this woman is most upset about right now? I believe that she is most upset about her licentious lifestyle and how she must be more careful when trying to rack up, what's that term that the kids use these days? Oh, yeah, body count. I don't believe this next person has any reason to worry about body count, but does have to worry about something else that the commies have used to appeal to these type of voters. Watch this. It's very quick, so pay attention. Yep, that person right there is extremely worried because while living in his parents' basement, the taxpayers of this nation will no longer be paying off student loans for people like him or her or it that sought advanced degrees in underwater basket weaving or gender studies. This next one is in a similar vein. She looks like she filmed this in her dorm room at a university in one of those blue states. The last half of this video really gets to the why we cannot let off the gas or think that our nation has turned the corner. Here it is.
What is wrong with you? I can't do this anymore. I'm literally sick. I'm literally sick to my stomach. What has happened to America? What has happened to democracy? What has happened to freedom? I'm done. This is a message to anyone who follows me. If you voted for Trump, unfollow me and block me. If you didn't vote, unfollow me and block me. The fact that it's this close means I've lost all hope in the American people. Like, it should not be this close. Why would anyone vote for this person?
Did you notice the key tell there? She actually believes she's performing for a large audience, that she has great influence or has a lot of people watching and following her. I'm going to show you one last quick clip and tell you about the conclusions that I have come to about this behavior from those on the left. It's quick, but it truly represents what us God-fearing conservatives were and continue to be up against. We haven't turned a corner. We have just entered the intersection. And now is not the time to rest on our laurels. Now is not the time for reconciliation and healing. So hear this video, watch it. What all those videos show is complete worship of self. Narcissism brought to the extreme. The commies have successfully infected those people with the woke mind virus to the point where they think their videos impact the entire nation, that their views are the only true and correct views, that their views are the only good views, because after all, they are God. Secular humanism destroys people, and if enough of them are destroyed, separated from their creator, then the nation they live in will be destroyed as well. So what part of our culture do these people in the videos have the most in common with? And who, for the most part, backed Vice President Harris in this election, as well as backing the Democrats in almost every election? Well, that would be the Hollywood and music industry elite. These videos show that they think they are on par with the likes of Bruce Springsteen, Oprah Winfrey, Megan Thee Stallion, Beyonce, John Legend, and especially Sean Combs, otherwise known as P. Diddy. These commies want followers and supporters that are complete narcissists, the people that worship self instead of a God, a creator, that endowed them with unalienable rights. They believe the rights come from government or come from them. There's an entire generation out there that think and act this way. And just because we won this election does not mean they will go away. In fact, they will double down on this behavior, which is why we have to press the gas pedal to the floor and keep this momentum going into the next midterm elections and beyond. Not only on the national level, but the state and local levels as well. Wow, so I don't have time to get into Bill Lee's current attempt to rob the people of our liberty, so I'll cover down on that in next week's topic of leadership. So I'm going to break right here and come back with my closing thoughts, burning some more bridges, as well as God's word. So once again, please stick with me, and I'll be right back. All right, folks, that will wrap it up this week. That last segment was a bit long, but I believe people need to know what we are up against. I ran out of time before getting into not only more Bill Lee's tyranny, but the poop hole that is Memphis going rogue some more. And it clearly demonstrates that they don't care about the constitutions of the state or the federal government. The more bridges to burn, though, that are these. The people that I'm connected to, yes, even family members, that continuously mock God with their left-wing memes, well, I don't need that toxicity in my life and will no longer be a participant in their mental illness. If you're a family member or friend that does that and you find that you cannot see me on social media, well, this is your warning shot. Before I give you my closing thoughts, I'm going to put out a programming note, and it's based on my upcoming schedule. With the extra length of this 4-week client engagement, plus my upcoming knee surgery coming right on the heels of my return home, as well as the Thanksgiving holiday, I'm going to take a couple of weeks off from producing content. That means there will not be an episode on the 25th of November and the 2nd of December. Of course, I'll be still sharing content on my website and social media pages, so be sure to subscribe, like, or follow me there. Speaking of the upcoming surgery, I find it hilarious that in almost every conversation I have where I mention my knee surgery, I get asked if it's a knee replacement. I suppose that is because I'm in my 50s that people ask that question. You never hear anybody ask a 20-something-year-old if they're getting a knee replacement when they are mentioned they are going in for knee surgery. So for clarification, I'm not going in for a knee replacement. I'm having a torn meniscus repaired as well as a cyst on my ACL removed. Nothing as drastic as most people would assume because of my age. So all of that to say, after next week's episode, there won't be a new one until the 9th of December. So if you have any tips or want to share any information, you can always reach me through my email. That address is larry@libertyleadershipandlies.com, or you can contact me through any of my social media accounts. Now for my closing thoughts. Ladies and gentlemen, the result of this most recent presidential election, as well as the gains in the U.S. Senate, does not, I repeat, does not mean our republic has turned the corner. We have just entered the corner, and we must keep our foot on the accelerator or else we will lose control. The commies will not simply give up, and we've seen that all over the news. Resist is the returning catchword, just like during President Trump's first term. Blue state governors all over the republic are vowing to fight, despite the gains President Trump made in their states. Now, I'll issue this warning once again. If you live in a blue state or even a blue city like Memphis, get out. You aren't doing yourself or your family any favors by staying, and you will not be able to stop the implosion of those states and cities. They must collapse under their own weight of tyranny. President Trump has a mandate, and for that mandate to successfully be carried out, it desperately requires the continued pressure of everybody that voted for him in this election. It also means that conservatives need to start paying attention to elections at the state level. For example, the second attempt by Bill Lee and his henchmen in the General Assembly to pass a liberty-robbing piece of legislation that is artfully disguised with lies. We must press every member of the local and state governments to stay true to constitutional principles. That means routinely contacting them, yes, instructing them to kill bad bills. This week's wisdom from God's word comes to us from the book of Romans, chapter 5, verses 3 through 5. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. The suffering of the erosions of our liberty that our republic has endured for more than a century now, but most especially over the course of the past 4 years, should have developed in us perseverance to keep the foot on the gas pedal through the next 4 years, ladies and gentlemen. But the perseverance requires action on the part of the citizens of this republic. We must stay engaged and become more watchful and more questioning of every action of our government. We cannot let this opportunity go to waste. 2026 is only 2 years away, and we can gain more ground between now and the next election by not resting on our laurels, not seeking healing and reconciliation, but pressing the gas pedal down. That is a message you will continuously hear on this program, along with many other conservative podcasts. So that wraps it up. Once again, happy Veterans Day to all those that have served this great nation. Until next week, and hopefully with a renewed energy to stay involved in our system of self-governance so that we can inspire more and more people to take a stand in the arena. So reveille, it's time to wake up.